You're tuning in to the Black Hollywood Live Network, featuring news, interviews, and commentary on all things Black Hollywood. Hollywood redefined. From Los Angeles, California, streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is Black Hollywood Live. Justice is served. Featuring the week's roundup and commentary on legal news. Black Hollywood Live. Hollywood redefined.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host for Black Hollywood Live, Justice is Served.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Justice is Served. I am your host, Chelsea Galicia, a freelance workers' compensation attorney, and today I am joined by a special guest host, Shaka Smith. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
A little bit about Shaka. He comes from Miami, went to college at Princeton, fancy, and law school in DC before he moved out to LA to pursue acting and fitness modeling. In his time in law school, he was with the public defender's office, and then also I understand you've done some healthcare law and natural gas law, areas of law that I have no idea about, so it's great for you to be here and provide your perspective. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Alrighty, so we've got some interesting stories for you today, starting with I saw her refer to Twitter hashtag Aunt from Hell.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if your aunt sued you because your hug was too enthusiastic?
And I was 8 years old. Yeah, that was a crazy case.
Yeah, we got a 54-year-old woman from New York who is suing her nephew. He is now 11, but at the time he was 8 years old when she showed up to his birthday party. He got all excited to see her, was like, Aunt Jen, and then leaped at her. I guess he weighed about 50 pounds, and that caused the aunt and the boy to tumble to the floor, and she broke her wrist.
Mm-hmm. He did what you're supposed to do when you're an 8-year-old kid and
That
you see your
is
hand.
so adorable. Yeah. So then now she is suing for that broken wrist.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the amount, $127,000 is what she was going after. I didn't see anything about lost wages or anything. Her claim for damages was equally ridiculous as filing this claim in the first place.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite reason why she filed this?
Oh, I love that she couldn't hold the hors d'oeuvres at a party that she was at, and
Yeah.
that was why.
Right, and that she lives in a crowded building or something,
Yeah.
and so I don't know what a crowded building has to do with her wrist, but two really, besides the fact that you're suing your own nephew,
Yeah.
ridiculous. So it seems to me that there has to be something going on behind the scenes with this family.
Well, I did just see an update. So this is in her defense. She's saying that Connecticut law required her to sue. Essentially, what I just read was she had medical bills. She had 2 surgeries, and she's on track for a 3rd. And in Connecticut, you must sue the person that caused the injury. So she couldn't go after the insurance, homeowners insurance. Apparently, homeowners insurance just offered her $1. And so she then had to sue the nephew. So I don't know if I'm buying it because this story came out after she got the big backlash from social media. And so I don't know if I buy it, but that's her excuse now.
So you have to sue your nephew, your 8-year-old nephew, for negligence, and you have to, with a straight face, say that an 8-year-old was out of line to jump.
Yeah.
Is that what the case is? I mean, because when you're claiming negligence, you're saying that somebody has a standard of care that they owe and that they violated that or that they breached that, and then there were damages caused.
Yeah.
So, but in her attorneys have said, she loves her nephew, but he needs to know like right from wrong, or he needs to learn his lesson. So it didn't say this was a necessary evil that had to be done, and I really don't want him to be punished. And if he did need to be punished for this, I don't know, aggressive hug, that you can talk to the 8-year-old and say you hurt people and not sue him for $100,000 plus.
Yeah, I would have liked to see them actually come after the homeowner's insurance or the law regarding it rather than suing your own nephew. I think it's a little bit of an excuse.
I mean, it makes people lose faith in the legal system when
Absolutely.
this is the kind of case that we're hearing about. Although hopefully your faith is restored by the 6 jury members who came back within half an hour and found that the kid was not negligent. Poor kid was just sitting there in court. He's now like 12.
Yeah, and its mother passed away.
Yeah, poor guy. He's confused. He's sitting there with his dad. His mom is not there because she died last year. How terrible. I really hope that there's some sort of explanation that we hear from the aunt, because this is really unexplainable unless what you're saying is true or there's something else going on behind the scenes. I don't know what else to say about this woman.
Even if it were true, she shouldn't have sued her nephew.
Yeah,
I
think I mean, the fact that the jury did not come back in her favor is bad enough, but I think there's going to be worse karma that comes from this. So I guess good luck to her. And let's move on to the James Blake case. Yeah. So this was the situation where the retired tennis star was standing in front of a hotel room in New York, a hotel, not room, but on a public sidewalk in front of a hotel, and a plainclothes officer just comes and tackles him.
The video was remarkable. Did you see the video?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Just comes out of nowhere and he's just down, wrestling him down, arrests him, and because it turns out that there was somebody that the police said looks similar to him that was involved in some fraud that they were pursuing in the area.
Credit card fraud. No weapons were alleged. No violence was alleged, and this was the way the officer decided to proceed.
Fascinating. I mean that there are officers for the union coming up to say, well, this was just a case of mistaken identity. But even if that was really the guy,
that's not the way you would proceed,
because he was supposedly guilty of some credit card fraud and not some having a weapon or being a physical threat.
Outside of a hotel on his phone. Yeah, he's not.
So, I mean, in a not so shocking turn of events, a civilian review board has found that there was excessive force.
Absolutely.
So the civilian complaint review board said what we all knew. But was there anything about what they did or said that was surprising to you?
Not really, but I think it hopefully leads to a broader conversation on whether race had, any play involved. Because would he have done that if it was a misidentified white individual?
That's a good question.
And so that's something I think that needs to be talked about.
I thought it was interesting how quickly this investigation was completed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, comparatively to, I guess the average, they said it's like 80 days, and they did this within 30. And so I think having James Blake, his name tied to it, and obviously having the video that was so clearly, arresting, if you will.
So what's next for this guy is he faces an internal trial within the police department. And even though this review board has said he used excessive force, that's not by itself enough to
warrant anything. Yeah.
Right. So the review board suggested that he be suspended or dismissed, and ultimately it's up to Commissioner Bratton. And I am really curious to see whether he'll make an example out of this guy by going really harsh or not. I think that this is, sorry for this guy, but it's a little bit of a PR opportunity or nightmare, depending on the way that he plays it. And this officer's career is going to be used to hopefully defer for people to not do this again.
Yeah, and I believe that he had actually had some complaints against him in the past for use of excessive force.
And that's another difficult part about this is that those records, internal personnel records, are not released to the public. And so this could be another aspect that the public can get involved about and start demanding, is that when public complaints are made against officers, that be made public information.
The result of the investigations, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So whether Commissioner Bratton will use this to try and deter other officers from engaging this behavior will be seen probably shortly. Do you have a suspicion as to whether the commissioner will fire him or whether he'll keep him on?
Well, I mean, I suspect he'll be suspended. I don't think he'll be fired. When the police departments, they tend to close ranks, and even from the union side, you see some of the statements they make regarding their officers.
Yeah.
And how closely they protect them. So I do think he'll be suspended because the case has gotten so much national news, but I don't think he'll be fired. But we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Either way, there's going to be huge reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll follow up on that. Now turning to a word from our sponsor, DraftKings, who is America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. You play, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they doing 1 week at a time means there's no season-long commitments, and if you have an injured player, it is no problem. You can swap them out because every week is like a new season. And DraftKings is crowning a new millionaire every week this season. So you could turn your love of football into a life-changing payday. All you got to do is pick up your players, your points, and then your cash. You've never seen fantasy like this. This is not fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. So now here's the thing. You've got to hurry to DraftKings.com and use the promo code BLACK to play for free at the shot of the $1 million in this week's Millionaire Maker event. So again, that's BLACK for entry now at DraftKings.com. All right, so now this is a little awkward because we're going to cover a story about DraftKings being sued. Shaka, can you explain this because you're much more knowledgeable about whatever is going on with these people?
Well, yeah, we had DraftKings and we have another website called FanDuel, and they're competitors both doing fantasy sports. An employee at DraftKings went and played on FanDuel and won $375,000. At the same time, he'd released some proprietary information. And so the question is whether or not this proprietary information helped him on the FanDuel's website. What this employee had was a roster. He had how many players are on the most rosters. So by having that with these different websites, you split money amongst all the people that do well. So if you know which players are on the least rosters and you use them and they have a good week, your payout's going to be a lot bigger because you're not splitting it amongst a greater amount of the pool.
Gotcha.
And so this guy made $375,000 in 1 week. And is this insider trading?
That's what it sort of feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this guy wasn't allowed to play for his own employer.
No.
It wasn't DraftKings.
Yeah.
He played for the competitor.
Yeah.
Were there any rules at the time prohibiting that?
And there were no rules for FanDuel or for DraftKings prohibiting their employees from playing on another competitor's website.
All right. So, but now they're saying that's not kosher anymore, and they're barring their employees from playing elsewhere. So this guy who, there's a guy who has sued. He wants to have a class action against DraftKings for allowing this to happen. Do you think that the steam of that guy's case has been taken out because DraftKings is taking it upon itself to fix the problem that led to this?
No, I still think it warrants review, and I think you look at the FTC and they look at a lot of online gaming, and I think now this is an area they need to take a stronger look at, because if you're stacking the deck, and some people allege that employees were encouraged to play on the opponent's website, so whether or not that's like sort of a bonus in of itself for their employees and to attract talent is another question. So I think it needs to be looked at. I don't think it'll lose steam because I think it's a very big issue. You have Major League Baseball, who I believe owns, I want to say part of DraftKings or a major equity stakeholder. And as a baseball player or any professional player, you cannot bet on any game, whether or not it's related to what you're doing or if you have information on it. And I think that needs to be the same for these online gaming companies.
Yeah, and I thought for a second that this kind of story would hurt DraftKings, but you're telling me that it actually boosted the numbers.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that don't even know about DraftKings and FanDuel. So both websites, they actually got more participation this past Sunday after the scandal. So at the end of the day, it's a scandal, but looks like it helped all parties involved.
All right. Okay, so now we got to follow up on one of the tragic cases that we have covered, the story of Walter Scott. You'll remember this was the gentleman in North Charleston, South Carolina, who was pulled over by an officer, Slager. Slager went back to his car to run probably plates, and during that time, Walter Scott jumped out of the car and ran. It looks like he was perhaps afraid that he was going to be arrested for an outstanding child support related warrant, and he ran away, and from many feet away, from not in any way appearing to be a threat to the officer, Slager shot him 8 times and killed him, and then walked by his body and dropped the taser. So now the city of North Charleston has approved a an award for the family of $6.5 million. So is that a fair amount? Is this justice?
Yeah, I think it's a fair amount. I think we've seen some past awards. Freddie Gray, 6.4, Eric Garner, 5.9. I think it's a fair amount. It's sort of heartwarming in a way to see that justice is served in this particular case. It's hard to watch when you see someone get shot running away. It's hard to watch an officer that you're supposed to trust dropping a taser. So reprehensible, but it looks like, at least in this case with the money damages award, they got it right.
Yeah. The family is very sweet. They're donating some of the money to help with victims of the flooding. There is also still the trial of the officer who faces, life for murder charges, essentially.
And let's highlight, you should never run away from an officer. You should follow their rules. They're generally there to help. I think there needs to be some healing, countrywide with regards to how we view officers and how officers view us, people, black people, all people.
Absolutely.
And hopefully this case will kind of further that healing and that discussion.
Yeah, totally agree. All right. And finally, let's cover this really interesting case where a Confederate flag group, they're called Respect the Flag, paraded down the street past a birthday party. So I saw the video, and it was like probably 6 or 7 raised pickup trucks. I forget that there are people in America who still think that's cool, with these big old flags, the American flag, the Confederate flag, and they're driving by one at a time, yelling out the window, and some of them apparently stopped and showed guns and crowbars, which people at this birthday party saw as threats.
Yeah.
So then the state of Georgia has indicted, a grand jury has indicted 15 of these Confederate flag supporters using a law that's an anti-gang law.
Yeah.
So was this, you think, how this law was intended to be used, or was this some creative use that we like or that we don't like?
Well, what I think is kind of heartwarming about the story, I think this law in 1992 in Georgia was passed to really target African-American gangs. And I think that they were a problem at the time. But what I do like is that today this law is, they're using the law to prevent the same type of harm, but it just happens to be against a group that supports the Confederate flag that's not an African-American group.
Yeah.
So I think what's important is that this actually went beyond race. It went to a harm that was caused in the community, and whether or not it targeted one group or the next group, it was about the harm being caused.
Yes.
And so I like that they were able to use this gang terrorism law and able to prosecute this group that, to go by a child's birthday party brandishing guns and crowbars. I think this is exactly the type of harm the law was designed to prevent, and I think it's doing its job.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the grand jury cited Georgia's Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. This was probably not at all what the authors of this act had in mind when they passed this in the early 90s, but it is great to see that they are using the laws to keep up with the times and the problems that are facing all people, and not just the ones that were, in their minds, victims at the time of this law passing. So kudos to Georgia for creative use of this law.
Yeah, I think because a law might disproportionately affect a minority group, if it's doing so not based on that reason, if it's doing so to prevent a harm regardless of race, I think we're in good territory.
I'm wondering though what the people who were in the legislature in Georgia at that time are thinking now, because Georgia's not generally known to be out for civil rights protection, and they did not have this in mind when they passed this law. So fascinating turn of events for those people. And geesh, just like that, we are through every story. Thank you so much, Shaka, for being here.
Absolutely.
We hope that you come back and join us next week. Please make sure that you tweet Chelsea Galicia and
Shaka Strong
your thoughts and opinions on the stories that we covered today. We'll see you next time.
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.